We need a catchphrase.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told you I went out with my baseball glove and went out to the street and tried to catch a catchphrase, but I couldn't catch a catchphrase.
You didn't try and catch it? Or
I did try to catch it.
Did you flinch? Did you flinch?
I easily flinched. I was like, I thought
You
I saw it in
flinch.
the air, and then like my eyes got into the sun. I flinched, and then just fair ball.
We shouldn't have sent you out there. You know, that's
No.
not your fault.
Yeah.
You don't send the bench guy out to catch a catchphrase.
No, you send your star pitcher to catch a catchphrase
That's right. And since we don't have a star on this podcast,
or a pitcher.
yeah, I think we're gonna lose the game.
Pitcher.
Picture. Are you? Oh, if you're listening to this because you're not on our Patreon watching it for free, you're seeing Eric make hand motions that nobody can decipher.
Well, okay, so picture, like a picture, like the pitcher through the baseball. Picture.
Just saying "pitcher" a million times, people aren't going to understand that.
Like
Picture, like a baseball pitcher.
Or
Picture, like a camera
like
picture.
I poured water out of a pitcher.
And picture, like
A
pouring water out of
picture.
a
I just took a picture. So this is pictures, and I took a picture. This is picture.
Okay,
as
yeah.
I threw a
That's the
baseball.
third
picture.
time that you're describing
And
this to
then
everyone.
there's also picture with water. So it's picture.
If
picture,
anyone's
and-
still listening to this, I'm so sorry, and you have other choices in podcast.
Speaking of which, does Keegan Shiner have a segue for us to talk about his other podcasts?
Yeah. Why don't we introduce this podcast?
No, we're talking about your podcast now. If we will do this, this is a great introduction. You will not ruin it for me.
Okay, fine. While we're on the subject, I did start a new podcast. It came out on Tuesday this week, and it is called Fine Art Podcast. The fine is in quotation marks. Because the podcast is fine, but the art is fine. Now that's a catchphrase, Eric.
I listened to it with my pinky out the entire time.
There's cool fine art, and I think that's kind of the point of starting a podcast about fine art, is to kind of spotlight some stuff that people don't know about and don't necessarily hear about if they're not, part of going to art school, basically. So yeah, that's my other podcast that you could be listening to instead of hearing Eric shout "pitcher" for 2 minutes.
Picture.
Thanks for joining us on Dumb Comic Creators. My name is Keegan Shiner, and I'm joined by
Eric Schwartz.
That's right. And that horrendous intro will go down in infamy as one of our longest, if nothing else. So, Eric, I don't see anyone else on this Zoom call.
That's because today's a special podcast because I finally got the first 2 pages done and edited to the point that I think I can show it to the general public, and we're actually going to do a reading of it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's big news. That's the deal maker?
That's the deal maker, because from that, I can actually start sending it to some artists to see like what they could do with it so I can hopefully enjoy it.
Cool. Yeah, that's big news, and that's worth not having a guest.
Mm-hmm.
Not every episode needs a guest. It's nice to have a little you and me time.
Aren't we entertaining enough for you?
Don't answer that. Don't answer that to yourself. And if you do, go listen to my new podcast, Fine Art Podcasts, releasing every Tuesday. No, what?
Remember
Sorry?
that we love you and you love us back.
Okay, so The Deal Maker is a comic that you're writing, and it's gone through some changes. You started with a cop that lived in a world with superheroes doing all the work. What's the point of that? And it morphed into this comic more about the mystical powered deal maker who kind of like offers these sort of devil at the crossroads type deals to people and changes their realities for good or bad, right?
Yep.
Cool. So you've spent like how many months has it been since you started writing?
I started writing just after the first podcast, so it's been almost 4 months now, I guess.
Okay, 4 months, and it's been 4 months. You've got a working script, I'd say, right?
Yes.
From that, you started with an outline, and
Mm-hmm.
you've kind of fleshed it out since then. And so we're about to look at page 1 and 2, and this is what you want to send to the artist. You're like happy with it. You're done.
Yes, I'm happy with it. I'm done. We may edit it some more right now just because, as you have said many times, there's a back and forth when it comes to like making a movie, for example.
Yeah.
If there's something that's we agree on that like we could change it for the better, we'll do it right here, right now, and change it for the better.
Okay. All right, cool. So without further ado, let's check it out. Page 1, 6 panels. And I'm counting, looks like you have 6 panels, so that's good. So panel 1, Hank Richards standing outside an open car. Hank is in his late 30s, early 40s, slightly overweight, slightly bald. His face appears to show dread about going in for another workday. His car is a Ford 1970s, dented, chipped, but not broken down. So oldie car.
Oldie car.
Looking at Hank with an overhead shot. So, yep. It is somewhat early in the morning with a cloudy overhead with somewhat mulled colors. Hank will have a plastic cup of coffee in his hands.
So for the first panel, I just kind of want to get Hank in his parking lot. He's going into work for the day.
Yeah, you got a good description. The only thing I would change is make sure that you put the camera angle, or maybe this is just me, but I think it's clearer to the artist if you tell them where the camera is looking at the beginning. Or I think of these as cameras, right?
Okay,
so the camera angle is like a high angle shot of, and that's all you have to write at the beginning. So it's like a high angle shot of Hank. And all the other descriptions here are pretty good. You don't really have to change anything else.
Okay. I just want to get an introduction of the Hank Richards, a police officer, going into work after pretty much the entire city has been saved by the superheroes.
Yeah, you might want to put Officer Hank Richards.
Okay, so
or detective.
I put officer. I think I in my head he's an officer, not a detective.
Okay, cool.
I still have him wearing the police uniform.
Okay, is that in here?
I don't actually have it in there. I need to put that in.
So we need to put that. So when in the first time you introduce a character, put what he's wearing, like, and other physical attributes. But make sure you include costumes, when you're describing characters. Yeah. It's like making a film, but you're doing every part of the filmmaking, All right, so panel 2, Hank Richards on outskirts of parking lot. Hank will have the cup of coffee in his hand still. This is a picture of his backside as he is clearly going in the direction of the police station. The police station is older but not falling apart, something from the 90s. The cup will be seen on the ground quite prominently.
Please delete that. That needs to be, that should have been deleted. I don't know how that was included.
Hold on. I'm just going to read this out the way you have it, okay? And then we can discuss. Is that okay?
That works.
Okay. The cup will be seen on the ground quite prominently with liquid spilled out on the ground as well. Hank will have his hand extended out with nothing in it. And then I'm going to read panel 3 because it's part of panel 2. Panel 3 is action scene of Hank throwing the cup on the ground. Please use same image as panel 2. So I think what you were getting at is that the cup will be seen on the ground quite prominently with liquid spilled out on the ground.
Yes.
Right? So if that's not in panel 2 and he's throwing it on the ground in panel 3.
Yes.
Do you need to add a panel of the cup hitting the ground with liquid out?
I wanted it to be in his hand in panel 2. And I meant to move that down to panel 3 of like the cut, like of him having like literally like where they show like the action of like him like the throwing motion, or like where they show like the most of the cup on the ground
Yeah.
with like it being empty, with it empty and stuff like there or there.
So now it is Hank has the cup of coffee in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He's like walking towards the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next panel is of him throwing the cup on the, like over, he throws it on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like an insert panel of the cup hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. Insert panel, do you know what that is?
I do not know.
Okay. So an insert panel is like when you have like a picture of, well, like Hank tossing the, like think of me as the panel, right? Hank's tossing the cup, right?
Yeah.
And then in like this little square in the corner, you see the cup is on hitting the ground. So it's within the panel, a panel within a panel.
Okay, that makes sense.
I could have just said panel within the panel to begin with, and that would have been much more clear. But instead, I wanted to describe it visually, even though we're doing a podcast.
Well, I get it now.
Don't ask me why I did it that way.
That makes sense to me, though.
Okay, cool. So now you have all three. You have Hank throwing the, he has the coffee in his hand. You have Hank throwing the coffee on the ground, and then you have the cup hitting the ground. Mm-hmm. And other than that, I don't think you have anything that you need to describe further in these panels. Yeah?
Yeah.
I sometimes, instead of saying, please use same panel as panel 2, I say like same or like repeat panel is another way of saying use the same image. Mm-hmm. I just write repeat panel with the change, you know. For the most part, when I'm reading this, because there's no set defined way of writing a comic book script, everyone writes it completely different from everyone else. Mm-hmm. Format and everything. There's a few things that artists force you to do, like writing panel dash what happens and page number dash how many panels are on the page. But like everything else is kind of up to how the writer does it. And if you can find an artist who will work with the script the way that you've written it, then you don't need to worry about it, you know. Whereas if you're pitching a screenplay, they have a whole hundreds of rules about how you should be writing that script. And the reason for that is because it's going to a studio, and the studio has lots of people who are in charge of money that want to see a script that looks professional enough to be given millions of dollars, you know. Once you get to a comic book company that is making millions of dollars on these scripts, you'll run into the same situation. I think there's like specific style formats for Marvel and DC too. But for the most part, people kind of format their own way, you know? Mm-hmm. So as long as you kind of know like your way around this, you'll be able to adapt if you end up in that situation, you know? Cool. So let's move on. Panel 4. Close-up of Hank with no cup in his hand. He will have a slightly happy face after having thrown away the cup. I think that's self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. Panel 5. Close-up Hank with cup back in his hand. His face will have turned sour. That's good too. Panel 6. Have the point of view of B below, Hank looking up, looking at the back of his head. Think of Gears of War over the shoulder shot with Hank being in the bottom right, but writing clearly in the bottom right. Hank will be looking at the sky with message written in the clouds. Dear citizens, please do not litter. It is your job to help the superhero team keep Midwest City safe and clean. So, a couple issues with this panel.
I know. Poor grammar. I meant to be in the top, the writing to be in the top left, and Hank to be in the bottom right, and just be the back of his head.
Okay, so you actually wrote exactly what you were trying to say. Mm-hmm. In this, you wrote it in like 20 words when you could have just said it in 3 words, and you had the 3 words here. Over the shoulder shot is what you were going for. And Hank is in the bottom right corner of the frame. And the writing and there's skywriting, right? That's what it is, right? Or what did the superhero write it in?
It would be in the clouds, is what I literally meant. Like he made like the
Oh,
clouds form
okay.
it.
There's writing in the clouds
Mm-hmm.
overhead in the left hand side of the
Yeah.
frame.
For
Okay.
those of you listeners who are wondering, I have absolutely no background in theater, movies, or like script writing. So,
But you've read comics your entire
I've read
life,
comics before, but I
and
only
you've
see the
watched.
finished. I've only
Yeah.
seen the finished product, not the um, like the products they do beforehand.
So a book I'm going to recommend to you is Shot by Shot, or it's actually called Film Directing Shot by Shot, which is a book about camera angles, but really it can be used for comic books just as easily. It'll show you like different ways of framing cameras, and especially like comes in handy with knowing how each camera angle sort of like shows a person's emotional state and like why you would be closer or further. Shot by Shot is like a very good technical book for directors of photography and film directors to kind of know every camera shot there is. So that comes in real handy when you're writing comic book scripts, because a comic book artist will be able to just look up whatever kind of shot that you've put in this script and know exactly what you're thinking. There's also YouTube videos with like, here are all the camera angles you should know, and that's just as easy as reading that book. So in this case, over the shoulder shot means the view is from behind the character. It's filmed over their shoulder. You can see probably a profile of their face looking up. Sometimes you can't see their face and it's like a fully behind the character. So sometimes you can still see their face. So also the artist will take care of a lot of this for you too, because they know all that stuff too. Yeah, in a lot of ways you're in good hands. You turn the script in, they'll read it, they'll either ask questions or they'll do something and show you and say, is this what you were thinking? And if not, you can try and describe it better. Yeah. So now we have over the shoulder shot with Hank being in the bottom right corner of the frame, and there's writing in the clouds overhead in the left-hand side of the frame. The the message says, so that's page 1. I think it's pretty successful. A lot happens in this page, It's a good sight gag.
It also gives an introduction to the world. So
Yeah. And you're introduced to the main character of the comic, even though it's not the Dealmaker. But like, aren't there a lot of comics where like the main character is hardly in the comic?
A lot of comics, as they go later on, they'll have the main character be in less and less, because you can only like learn so much about a specific character.
Yeah.
Without getting tired. So a lot of times they'll start exploring like their secondary characters more.
Right. Like a whole, we're doing a book about Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, stuff like that. So that's what happens a lot. So
I don't think that's without precedent.
no, it's definitely not
precedent.
At all.
Yeah.
I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho, which is a famous manga / anime, the main character dies right away, and then like he comes back later, but like within the first like one, he just dies.
Nice. Well, there you go. Maybe you'll bring Hank back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, page 2, 7 panels. Panel 1, side picture of Hank as he entered a police station. Oh, wait, let me go back. So page 1, I also had a note here about calling it Midwest City.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is a specific enough name to be interesting. Because it's very generic, right?
I was purposely just kind of leaving it because I was actually thinking of DC Comics, where they literally named the city West Coast City, or for Hal Jordan, that's the city he comes from, is West Coast City. So I just kind of was like throwing homage to Midwest City.
Okay, all right. Okay, page 2, 7 panels. Panel 1, side picture of Hank as he has entered a police station. The door will have been still in the swung open page.
Position is what I meant.
Okay. The door's still open. When you are writing these, you can just instead of like a novel where like the door was still open, you would say the door is open. The door is open, or his hand's still on the door. In front of him, facing the audience, is your stereotypical older lady receptionist, Jessica. Jessica is a type of lady who looks like she could have seen the Magna Carta be signed if women were allowed to be there. Also above and to the left of Jessica is a clock clearly showing 9:50. Both Hank and Jessica look like they don't want to be there. So this is a wonderful, wonderful writing if it was a novel. But I think a comic book artist will want to know why Jessica looks like she, honestly, when I read that, I was like, is she very proper? Is she dressed as an English, like, delegate? like, is she wearing Quaker clothing? Like, what's happening?
Well, so you know how in every single job, like, there's that person who's, like, been there for forever and a day, and...
Yeah, okay.
That's what...
So, like, lots of wrinkles, maybe is like very hunched.
Yeah.
You just have to like really describe their posture and like their physical features. You can't like, I mean, you can do that, but you're not going to get exactly what you want. Very thick framed glasses that make her eyes really large,
Yeah.
All these things will describe a super ancient person. I mean, this is really funny, like the Magna Carta, but a comic book artist, and some of them aren't English is their primary language.
Yeah.
They're not going to get that. It's going to be very hard for them. Good with the clock. Is it digital though? That's something that
let's make it digital.
Okay. Panel 2. Hank is now slightly closer to Jessica. Jessica still has the same sour face from before to Hank. Hank, you're 20 minutes late. So I think this sentence actually could have been in panel 1. I didn't understand why it wasn't in panel 1.
Because I was just trying to show Hank just walking past her was the point. So, if you want, we can move it to there.
Yeah, it just seems this is one of those things like where in comic books, this came with experience for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in comics, if you have just a panel of him walking in the door, it's weird if they're not saying anything to each other because he's already in the door. They're already looking at each other.
So
it's like they're not acknowledging each other.
Then we just can move it to
it's like the equivalent of watching on a movie like an awkward silence, because they're not.
Yeah. So just combine panel 2 with panel 1.
Yeah. Okay. Panel 3. Well, I deleted panel 2 for now. Panel 3, Hank responds with a look of slight amusement. Well, I was delayed by all the crime happening. Oh, are you supposed to be reading this?
Oh, yeah. Hank is when Hank says I'm supposed to be reading it.
Hank responds with a look of slight amusement.
Slight amusement. Well, I was delayed by all the crime happening in the street.
Hank is still to the right of Jessica. Okay, so this is something you actually don't need to write, is Hank is still to the right of Jessica, because the artist will do that for you. He knows where the characters need to be in the scene. Under no circumstances should you say Hank is to the left of Jessica, Hank is to the right of Jessica, Hank is to the left of Jessica when you're writing out these panels, because if you're wrong, the artist is going to be very mad.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So similar to a cameraman on set, making sure that the camera is placed in the same place or in the proper location when they're filming. The comic book artist will do that for you. On the other hand, in this scene, if you wanted it to be a wide shot in panel 1 and then a medium shot of Hank like smiling while I was delayed, then you would actually just write medium shot of Hank. Mm-hmm. And then back to a two shot meaning both characters in the shot. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So do you want all of this in a wide, or do you want, how do you want this?
So we'll remove me saying where he's at.
Yeah. Okay. I did that.
And we don't need to say how big it is or how small it is. We can let the artists.
Well, the artist won't change that unless you indicate it.
Yeah, I don't think we need to indicate that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so wide shot's fine for most of this. Just be aware, like if you want to highlight a emotional reaction, you should put close up or medium shots in.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I do that. Like, so if you notice, like in panel 1, we have the close up of Hank without the cup of coffee where he's happy. For a second, Hank with it where he's again sour.
Yeah. So now I've changed that to panel 2. So panel 3, Hank now passed to the right of Jessica.
So
Hank is
as
laughing.
you said, we need to remove that.
Yeah, I know. Hank is laughing, and so is Jessica. Use gentle ha-ha-has. So I actually like to use gentle ha-ha-has. That's such a cool way of putting that. You could put Hank ha-ha-ha, Jessica ha-ha-ha as like dialogue, or you could put SFX ha-ha-has, or you could just use gentle ha-ha-has.
I'm going to leave and use gentle ha-ha-has. I like that.
Okay. So you have Hank now passed to the right of Jessica. You could still put Hank has moved by Jessica heading down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And that will tell the artist that you want to show him like beyond her conversation line, like where they could talk anymore, so he's actually still walking and stuff. Okay. So panel 4, Hank is sitting at desk. On his desk. Yeah, I know. You don't have to fix this as I speak. It's okay. Hank is sitting at his desk. On his desk is a picture of his wife and 2 daughters. His wife is a brown-haired, brown-eyed girl who is pretty but not over the top. His 2 daughters who look like high school-aged versions of Jenny. Joe is a drill sergeant who looks like a football player. He is a black man with a crew cut. Joe is yelling at Hank with an angry, frustrated face, saying, Hank, it's been 6 months since you have issued a ticket, a single ticket. Hank with have a neutral face. All right, so there's some issues with there's some issues with this. So Eric.
Yeah.
Let's start from the first sentence. Okay. He's in his office, right? This is Hank's office?
Yes.
Right, we got that right. Okay, on his picture is a picture of his wife and 2 daughters. What's his wife's? Oh, shit.
His wife's supposed to be named Jenny. I thought that I put that in earlier and I forgot. I guess I didn't because I re-edited everything for this.
When you introduce new characters, it's polite to put them in all caps.
I know.
Their
also it's kind of funny because if you read it, I say his wife's in there and all of a sudden somebody say Jenny and they're like, who's Jenny? High school age version of Jenny. Who's Jenny?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Jenny is a brown-haired, brown-eyed girl, woman, right?
Yeah, I guess you say woman. Yeah.
What's her age range?
She'll be same age as Hank, so late 30s, early 40s.
Who's pretty but not over the top. What does not over the top mean?
But not aggressively pretty.
Okay, pretty but plain.
Yeah.
Okay. His 2 daughters, who look like high school-aged versions of Jenny, stand next to her with their arms wrapped around her back. So again, like what are their physical positions? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then that can just be a paragraph. And then in front of Hank is Joe, his boss. Joe is a drill sergeant who looks like a football player. He's a black man with a crew cut. Joe is yelling at Hank with an angry, frustrated face, saying, you don't have to put angry and frustrated face. You can just put Joe's yelling at Hank and is clearly angry and frustrated. Okay, and Joe says, Hank, it's been 6 months since you issued it. All right, but like how would Joe actually say this? Because right now he's saying, Hank, it's been 6 months since you have issued a ticket, a single ticket. Like, is that how he would say it?
I mean,
like,
so
yell at me and say,
it's been 6 months since you issued a ticket, a single ticket.
Yeah. So you didn't say you have, you said since you've issued a ticket.
Well, you have and you've is the same thing. Just one's a conjunction of the other.
But you want to write it out not with proper grammar, but the way that people actually talk.
Okay.
So
it's been 6 months since you have issued a ticket, a single ticket.
It doesn't sound right, does it?
It's fine. We'll
Because
change
you're
it.
emphasizing have, which isn't like what you want to emphasize.
Have I want no. It's been 6 months since you've issued a single ticket.
Is that what you want them to say?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
And then Hank during this time will have a neutral face.
Right. Okay. But Hank is described earlier, so I'm going to put that up at the top. Hank is sitting up at his desk. He has a look of disinterest. So he's like neutral, disinterested. It's the same thing. And then, all right. So panel 5, Joe with a remorseful face. John issued a ticket just last month. You used to love this job. A leader in the locker room, a leader on the streets. Hank will have a slightly less happy face. So why is Joe remorseful here?
Because he's kind of remembering like the good old times, like the times like when Hank was like his guy that like he could give anything to do. Like if there's a case that couldn't be solved, or there's a problem that needed to be solved, you give it to Hank.
Okay.
And so he's no longer like that because he just no longer cares about his job.
So what could Joe do with his body to like kind of get that across?
I could say
Like,
that like so
if
in
you
the first panel I could say that he was leaning over, and the second panel he's like standing more and more upright.
What's he doing with his arms?
Keeps them down or puts them in his pocket, I guess. Pockets.
I'm just gonna leave this for a second, okay?
Okay.
Because then we should just do the scene really fast together once we go through these. All right, and then panel 6. Joe finishing with a pleading face. Do you even want to be a cop? Hank has a neutral expression on his face, not respond, just looks forlorn and looking towards the viewer, but not perfectly head on. Hank will be seen from mid-stomach up. They are. I'm sorry. Okay. So Joe is saying, do you even want to be a cop? Hank is still neutral. Okay. Let's just leave that. Panel 7. This will be for the entire bottom page. Joe is now turned around and walking away. Hank, showing a look of disgust, mutters under his breath, no point in the police since the superheroes won. Okay, so let's do this scene really fast. You be Joe and I'll be Hank. Okay, so I'm in my office.
It's been 6 months since you've issued a single ticket. You used to love this job, a leader in the locker room, a leader on the streets. Do you even still want to be a cop?
No point in the police since the superheroes won.
I didn't really understand what you just said right there. It was kind of low. I couldn't hear you.
So, do you kind of see what might be the problem with this scene? There's actually, why isn't Hank responding to his boss?
Because I think he's just kind of points. He's just sitting there and taking it.
I think you're skipping a couple of argument points for Joe. If Hank's not going to listen, Joe needs to acknowledge it, right? At least one thing about comics that you don't get in movies that I try and, when I'm like writing these, I like try and insert a little more dialogue direction, meaning like the reader is not going to get like subtle visual clues from the actor that he's like paying attention but not really listening, you know. All he can see is what's on the page. So if Joe is even like, oh, you're not going to listen to this, well, listen up anyway. Like I'm just going to keep talking to you, you know, which will make it easier for the reader to understand that Joe is acknowledging that Hank is not listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Or actually, sorry, what I'm trying to say is it will make it easier for the reader to understand that Hank is purposefully not answering his boss if Joe acknowledges it. Do you see what I mean? Because
so we
even
will
though
add a line after line, do you even want to be a cop? Of Joe saying, there's no point in talking to you. It's like talking to a wall.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Beyond that, I would even just add more because right now the page has 7 or 6 panels. Okay, so my point is Joe could be saying more because it would make it more clear to the reader. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So like, look, Hank. So he's yelling in the first one.
Yeah.
So even going off of that, like we started in the middle, like if you have a dash here, like he's in the middle of his sentence, and like I'm going to spitball, you can edit this out later. Okay.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to hear your bullshit excuses. It's been 6 months, Hank. Because when people repeat things, it's also more effective. Like 6 months since you've issued a ticket, a single ticket. What the hell have you been doing around here? Joe stands upright, putting his hands in his pockets. Joe with a remorseful face. And so he's remorseful, right? Because he's yelling at his friend, right? So you have to show that it's his friend. Like, look, man, I don't want to be here any more than you want me in here. We're friends. I mean, just say it sometimes too. There's still work to be done, right? That's kind of what his point is. John issued a ticket just last month. You used to love this job. You used to be a leader in the locker room and a leader on the streets. What's going on with, well, I guess you say, do you even want to be a cop anymore? Yeah, okay. But
so change, do you even want to be a cop? Do you even want to be a cop anymore?
Okay. Yeah. So he's yelling. Let's go back to the yelling. I want to hear your bullshit excuses. It's been 6 months, Hank. 6 months since you've issued a ticket, a single ticket. What the hell have you been doing around here? I've got to show my boss. I've got to show
the chief.
Isn't he the chief? He's not the chief.
No, I think so. I have Joe, or not Joe. I have Hank as a sergeant,
Okay.
Joe as a captain.
Got it.
And there's a chief of police who's above a captain.
Okay, I've got to show the chief why we keep your on the payroll, and I don't have much to show him, do I? I don't know. So why don't you yell at me in this and see how it sounds?
Don't want to hear your bullshit excuses. It's been 6 months, Hanks. 6 months since you've issued a ticket. A single ticket. What the hell have you been doing around here? I got to show the chief why we keep your butt on the payroll. I don't have much to show him right now. Do I?
Yeah, how's that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he's remorseful?
Mm-hmm. Look, man, I don't want to be here any more than you want me in here. We're friends. There's still work to be done. John issued a ticket just last month. You used to love this job. You used to be a leader in the locker room and a leader on the streets. Do you even still want to be a cop anymore?
Yeah. How does that sound to you?
It sounds good.
Okay. More fleshed out or too fleshed out, or what
more
do you
fleshed out? No, the reason why. So I actually had more, and I took it away.
Okay.
Because I think I took the wrong lesson from you last week when you said like how you have to break everything down and separate stuff out, like just to show the emotions. And so I deleted stuff because I thought it was redundant, actually.
Okay.
So I'm like, I don't need to show this person shows emotion here. We don't need to show it again here. We'll just eliminate and kind of rearrange and combine.
Last week, I was talking about people jumping around, like infiltrating an apartment building and saying like, well, I better jump here. And, oh, I'm going to need to climb this ladder fast to get in there, or I wonder if it's this door, in every single panel. And it was just really boring. But I think there is some leading that you need to do for the reader's sake to like kind of know their relationship right away. And it's sort of like an improv scene, right? Like you need to establish some more of their stuff, right here, or they're just kind of two-dimensional characters. Like this is just his boss yelling at him, and it's like a few more details kind of gives you an in on these rounds them out a little more, right? Okay, so this is that's basically your 2 pages, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think 2 pages, it's good. I think it would be good to show. My only concern is your main character of the comic series is in this, but if you were just trying to test out some pages and get a style idea, this is probably good because you get some action, sort of, and
then I'll go through it again one last time. There is the panels where we get introduced to the DEALMAKER. I also want to do that, so that will be something I guess we can do for next week, is go through those panels, or those pages, where the DEALMAKER gets introduced, because I think that's the biggest crux of the story, and I think that's kind of the most important part. So,
but I think for now, I would go ahead and submit these. See if you can get some artists to draw them, and let's go from there. Okay. Sound good? Yeah.
Sounds good.
So good job, Eric. That was your 2 pages. They're looking good.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's super tedious to listen to probably for a podcast. If you're with us still, you must very much be interested in making a comic, which go for it. Do it.
Go for it. Yeah.
And if you have any questions, let us know. We're at dumbcomiccreators@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you have any questions in general, just same email address.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, hey, Eric.
Hey, Keegan.
Did you read any comics this week?
I did read a comic this week. It's about a Mart.
Oh, do you mean Invasion on Aisle 2?
Exactly.
Part 1?
Aisle 1. That's exactly what I mean.
Aisle 2. It's Aisle 2. Part 1.
Part 1. Part 2 to come out in December.
You mean the comic written, drawn, and colored by Eric Jacek?
Exactly. Hey, he sounds exactly like our guest from last week.
Our host from last week?
He was our host. He was so good. He took over our jobs.
Yeah. No, he was a guest, though. And yes, he was on our show last week, from what I remember. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It was.
Really nice guy. I liked it. I thought it was a really good read.
Yeah. What about the story?
It had a nice political undertone about it, and I thought it actually had some great comedy bits about it.
No, not the je ne sais quoi. I'm talking about what's the plot.
You said what I thought of it. It's what you said, not the plot.
I said, what's the story?
You said, what's the plot? You said what I think of it. I said I thought it was good.
Okay. You're right.
So the plot. An abuse victim goes shopping at Walmart.
What?
And
what? He's an abuse victim?
His wife clearly abuses him.
Okay. Yeah, that comes later, though.
That comes later. So
it's about a guy who wants to return a blender.
He wants to return a blender at Walmart, of all things.
Not Walmart. It's called Mart.
It's Walmart.
It's actually Mega Mart.
Mega Mart. It's a Mega Walmart. He gets treated terribly by customer service, and they refuse to let him do the return. So he then goes back to his abusive wife.
Nope. First, he drops the blender off, and he just leaves it at the store.
He leaves it on the shelf.
Yeah.
At the store. And
okay.
Then he goes
You're
back.
obsessed with this abuse.
What?
You're obsessed with with the abuse in the comic.
It's horrible abuse. I don't like it.
Did that resonate with you for some reason? Some specific reason?
I have my cat. He always yells at me. He's always meowing at me, hissing every once in a while. Actually, he's never hissed at me, but he meows at me a lot.
Yeah, maybe you need to feed him more.
I feed him all the time. He gets upset because, so for example, I haven't eaten my dinner today, and my dinner's not gonna be something he likes.
Oh, I see.
It's because it's pasta based, so he's not gonna like it.
You haven't eaten dinner?
I waited for I have I'm cooking something called the cheese thing.
Yeah.
And you need to let it soak for 2 hours. And so I finished it right at 8:00. And when this podcast is done, cooking it.
Nice. Okay. So great. So yeah, he has an abuse and she makes him go back to the store. I don't remember why, but
because she's hosting a party for her friend.
Oh yeah, and she wants something.
Yeah, who I'm pretty sure she's having an affair with.
She's got a list, yeah.
She's got a list, so he goes back.
All right, so he goes back, and then the blender is mad that he left it.
And so he gets rescued by the gang of, what was it? The Protectors of Isle 2?
The Marts Templar.
Yeah, the Marts Templar, who are 3 men, all like representing different, like very whereas very like MAGA people. And
the Marts Templar, and they all have like e-scooters that they ride around.
And they all have to protect, like, because they too are fallen victim to the blenders attacking them.
Yeah. And so they're just like, they tell them about the conspiracy, and they say they're going to help him shop. Yeah.
Yep.
To be continued.
To be continued in December.
What do you think of the art for this comic?
I like the art. It was unique and it was detailed. And then I also just thought that like each character was done in such a way that it reminded me of like a PBS show.
Yeah.
Like, and I really, really liked that. And while the backgrounds were not overtly done, I mean, if you look at them, some are just single color frames. Yeah. I thought it was still just had a solid amount of detail.
Yeah, they truly look like Muppets. Muppets are built with like geometric shapes and like a nose and like a geometric shaped mouth, and like that's definitely this style of character, which really works for this because it's totally an absurd satire. And and it made all of the characters sort of lovable, even though they're kind of scummy, you know. And it's all computer drawn. I think it looks like it's all vector based, and I thought that was really interesting. And some of these parking lots are really detailed, and I'm not sure why, because a lot of the comic is not as detailed as this parking lot. Yeah, like this almost looks collaged as an actual Walmart, doesn't it?
Yeah. I also like the fact though too that he would do things in collage style, so that like he would do one thing on one layer, then add another layer and go to a third layer, which always to me was amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, the art is definitely very interesting in this comic, and I think he's a really talented artist.
I mean, like all his work he's done, because he did the one that was the claymation, which I thought I really, really liked too, and like I'm upset for personal reasons that he's not doing a sequel to that, because I felt the storyline was left very much open-ended, that like it was very just like a beginning of the storyline wasn't finished at all.
Yeah.
Like Acid Rain, I think was the name of it, or what was it?
Yeah, Acid Rain, but it ended in a death, so it felt complete to me.
But it still was like, it's like if you ever see a horror movie, it's like that's like the first part before like they like go with the rest of the story.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what else happens under the rain?
Under the Rain, yeah.
Let's talk about the color.
Colors were simple but efficient, is how I describe it, in that things didn't appear to be blended, but they appeared well done, in that like you could see each separate color. Same way you would see like at a Muppets, because Muppets don't have crazy backgrounds because the puppets themselves are fairly simple.
Well, they're all done in felt, right?
Yeah.
So there's a few shadows in this comic, but for the most part,
again, there's only the parking lot scene, which is like by far his most detailed scene.
Well, even here, there's a few shadows, but for the most part, it's flat color. Yeah, like he's doing vector shadows, so there is a shadow, but it's not too much, and it kind of looks like paper cutouts still, which is funny because he does a lot of collage, but he does it all digitally, so he's not actually getting the paper shadow that he would get from like tactile materials. Anyway. But yeah, it does look like that felt color that you'd see on a Muppet too. And the the Mart colors are all very muted, just like real Walmarts. But there's some like really bright pinks and oranges and stuff that kind of make this more cartoony and lighter, even though the material is kind of dark. So, what about the lettering, Eric?
Again, lettering was, I think it fit in because it was all computer done as well, and I think it added to the story in that like it was all like simplistic, like robotic. It's almost like guess I
I'm
describe
gonna
it.
tell you, I think he actually wrote this lettering.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I would not have known that. It very much looked like it was
The reason I say that is if you look at the eyes on this
the.
panel of a blender saying, I don't want your money, I want my revenge, I want blood, you'll see that the eyes all have different shaped dashes.
Also, if you look at like I don't, it doesn't appear to be uh parallel to each other. It seems that the don't is above the I.
Yeah, it's all spaced funny and like I'm pretty sure he wrote all of this himself.
Okay, I would not have noticed that. Like I looking closer, it makes I can see it,
Yeah.
but it's not done like.
Yeah, the lettering's not done with a ruler. It looks pretty close, and he definitely knows the rules of lettering. And honestly, I think that adds to the comic. He said that he didn't like digital fonts either. If you have the patience to letter by hand, do it because it always looks better. But
Yeah, it always does look better. Like that was probably like to go back to finger banging, one of my favorite comics. The first three were hand drawn lettering, which really added to it.
we really like it that way.
I really like it that way. And the fourth, I think to their detriment, they made it computer drawn.
Yeah. Well, I think hopefully it was just a test.
Yeah, hopefully finger banging number 5 will be back to hand drawn.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, if you look at this 20 minutes, the 0 is very separate from the 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, even though it looks like digital fonts because it was drawn digitally,
Mm-hmm.
it's by hand. It's like digitally by hand.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Also, he keeps exact time of how long he's allowed to go out. That's an abusive relationships. 20
Okay.
minutes
All
and
right, wait, hold on,
2.5
hold on.
seconds.
Hold on. What's the je ne sais quoi?
The French term?
Yeah, and I know it is for you. You can keep talking about the abusive relationship now.
For me, it's the abusive relationship. Like he is a horrible wife who I'm convinced is cheating on him. And not only is that, it's abusive.
You just really like this abusive wife.
I don't like her. That's the point. I want to see like they're like so like the
You
blenders
like
are
this
going after
so
the wrong
much.
person.
You like this so much.
No, she's a horrible person.
Something about this just really struck a chord with you. This made the comic for you, though.
I mean, like I could like follow this the entire time following this abusive wife and like the relationship and the karma that she has to get because she's such a horrible person.
Maybe she's just really not like a nice person.
So Keegan, there are people you've met who are not nice. Do they keep the exact amount of time that you do everything like readily like available?
Yeah.
Wow,
Not nice people do that.
That was a 10-minute, 30-second dump. You must have had to go.
Yes, I did.
It was my only me time.
The je ne sais quoi for me was it was the character design being like Muppets because it really made it more interesting to me.
I guess like that too. I think the je ne sais quoi for me was all the characters because I thought he had interesting characters. Like,
yeah,
I honestly think
there's little subtle bits in this too. Like, like this guy's T-shirt is like Love Machine, and he's holding like a cup of noodles, but it's like a box. And like even this like poster is like shopping at Mart. Mart cured my son's cancer. Like just there's like lots of little bits like that I really like about comics because they make the reread ability higher. Yeah.
A detriment is I've played Tetris before, and that's not how Tetris is. It's one item at a time, and there's like 4 objects out there.
That's Mart Tetris.
Mart. Yep.
And if you'll notice, the customer service rep lost that level again. Yeah. So it must have been really hard.
Yeah, most people play Tetris 1 item at a time. He plays it 4.
It's
no wonder he had so much trouble.
Yeah.
Mart.
So Eric, on a scale between level 999 of Tetris and being stuck with by like a giant fly trap, and then but it's attached to like the wife in this comic's house, and she just yells at you for everything that you do in the fly trap. and how much time it takes, what would you give this comic?
Wait. So why is these are again your scales are horrible because it goes like negative to negative. I don't like the wife. You remember? I think she's a bad person.
No, I know. So that was the bad one. Yeah.
So I thought the bad thing would have been that the good thing was the fly trap was eating the wife when she started talking.
Like she gets stuck. No, that's the bad one. You're stuck in the fly trap. That's the bad one. And then level 999 of Tetris, like beating level 999.
Oh, beating level 599. Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I would put this under Dr. Mario level 13.
Oh, that's a hard level.
So Dr. Mario level 13 is a notoriously hard level early on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that you're so up there and you're getting there, but it's not like beating level 40, which is a lot harder.
I see. And you're kind of stuck on it too, like a fly trap.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck on it, yeah.
See, my scales don't suck.
Because I make them work.
That's
the
true.
one that was horrible was, horrible. The horrible one was the not going to last week's not being able to go to the bathroom, but I like going to the bathroom.
I thought you would give this up.
Touching money. Everything you touch turns to money. I'm like, money's good. What's the problem?
No.
And they're like, or not being able to go to the bathroom. Like,
the world will be destroyed if everything turns to money.
Well, according to that, like literally just the world's dead. Like it would have been better.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Thanos
a bad
would
thing.
have had it easier if he just did it that way.
He should have done it that way. Thanos was a moron.
Mm-hmm. He was actually a moron because he also destroyed half the food sources too. So he didn't do anything. On a scale from stuck working and living at Mart to that's the bad one.
Living and working?
Living and working there.
How would that be a bad one?
Because you don't get a discount.
But you'd have plenty of food.
Okay, fine.
Supplies.
Stuck working at Walmart customer services part only with no discount to having your own jacuzzi suit that you could snap and it gets on you whenever you want to.
A jacuzzi suit?
A jacuzzi suit.
What does that mean?
So it's like your own personal jacuzzi, but it's a suit.
So it's like warm water surrounding your body? And
massaging you too.
Like a pea suit.
Well, you don't pee in your jacuzzi suit. That's just weird.
What if you have to go? What do you do? Unzip it?
You unzip it.
Won't the water spill out?
No, the water won't spill out. Like jacuzzi suits are well designed that you don't have to do that. Or just, I don't know, move things to the side. Grab it to the side.
That sounds like the bad one.
Fine.
Can you drown in it?
No, you don't wear it over your face.
You can drown in a normal jacuzzi.
Yeah, but you don't. But in the jacuzzi suit, it goes from your neck down.
Okay. All right. A jacuzzi suit that feels like warm pee.
That you can snap your fingers and it goes on you as soon as you snap your fingers. It turns on, and as soon as you snap your fingers again,
it goes off.
It goes off and goes back into like its own pocket.
So if somebody was giving you a hug, you could kill them.
Yeah, because then they're
snapping.
They're covered because then like the jacuzzi suit surrounds them and they can't breathe.
And they'd be drowning. Yeah.
Yeah. While getting massage, though, like this is so comfortable that how you're killing me.
That's gross. But that can't be the good one.
The jacuzzi suit?
Okay. Well, I'll give this comic a real jacuzzi where other people could get in and you could have an actually good time.
Yeah, but they could also pee in there too.
Oh yeah.
I would love my own personal jacuzzi suit. Just like going around like, what are you doing, Eric? I am so warm and massaged.
Clearly you think that's a good idea. I do. That's just a horrible idea.
Well, you were the one that's like, going to the bathroom is a bad thing. I'm like, no, it's a relaxing time.
All right. Well, I thought this comic was really fun to read.
I thought it was really funny too. I thought it was well done.
Really well done. Yeah.
I also my favorite part about the interview that we had with him was he's like, well, before we interview, I know we sound not professional and not ready, but we really actually do our research and we do read on it, and we do ask each time we interview somebody what they think is what we're allowed to talk, anything they want to talk about, anything they don't. And the first thing he says is no politics. Yep. And then this comic has giant political statements in it that you just have to bring up. So we brought it to talk about politics.
Pretty much full time, yeah. He was a great guest.
He was a great guest, a lot of fun.
So we recommend you go back and listen to that one if you haven't already. Yeah.
And we also recommend you go to the Patreon and give us money.
Yeah, or if you want to listen to this podcast, you are right now. But if you want to also watch it on video and like see what we're talking about, visit our Patreon page. It's free to watch these, and we don't make you pay. So, but you could. It's the suggestion of like being able to pay, but you don't have to.
And if you want us to review any comics, email us at dumbcomicbookcreators@gmail.com. Dumbcomiccreators@gmail.com.
Yeah, good. Our Instagram is @dumbcomiccreators. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. They go a long way.
Facebook, Dumb Comic Creators as well.
Yeah. Eric, this has been a great podcast.
Yeah, it has been.
And tedious.
What?
Pretty tedious. I'm going to say, but I have to say tedious.
I think so. I think it's one of those, you have to get through this to be actually able to do your craft of creating comics.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be the fun and boisterous world that you hope it to be, but it's still something that's required to get done. That's
a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
And we always describe our podcast to people that way.
Yeah.
When they say, hey, what will I be listening to? I always say, it's not always going to be fun. Sometimes it's part of the.
We're very serious people.
That's right. And we're Dumb Comic Creators. I'm Keegan Shiner.
I'm Eric Schwartz.
And see you next time.
We need a catchphrase.
Yeah, we do. All right. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.